everybody. It's Pam and Jenna tonight. Dan can sadly not join us, but not that sad because he just got married on Sunday. So I guess he's on his honeymoon. I don't even know where he is. Do you know where he is?
No, but he's indeed on his honeymoon.
But rudely not spending it with us. Doubt he watched the reunion. How dare he? The most instrumental episode of all 19 episodes of all
Right.
7 months, it feels like we've been watching the show for. It's funny watching the reunion. Again, I always talk about who I watch the challenge with, but I'm watching with my husband. He completely forgot Laurel was on this season.
I almost did too. I was like, "Oh my God, these people." It is crazy when they come back, these people that you totally forgot about. And some of the questions, I was like, God, they started out with so many people.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and I said, well, that's what happens when the season is like 3 months long. You
Hmm.
forget who was on it. It's such a journey. But I really enjoyed the reunion, actually. I thought it was good and full. There was a lot of different things that were covered. And I want to give such a shout out, and this is not just bias. I think Maria is so amazing. She is so good at what she does. She is a TV host. She is what a TV host acts like. Just everything about her is spot on.
I will also say I was super impressed with Maria. She's just a consummate professional. You can tell she actually watches and cares about the show,
Yes.
which is so much better when they've had these like sports people that are like, coming in and have no idea what they're talking about, and it really shows. So
Yeah.
it's really nice to have someone that's connected to the show. I thought this was fine. When I learned it was part one, I was like, oh boy. Um,
Mm.
I
Well, we knew that. We knew that was going to
I
happen.
don't think I knew for sure, or I didn't register or think about it ever before. I mean, I don't mind because it's enjoyable, but I didn't think, well, let's talk. I mean, yeah, I felt like no big reveals, sort of rehashed the same old, same old. Another shout out to Amber,
Yeah.
and Amber, who looks gorgeous and
Looks
didn't say a word.
gorgeous, but I wonder if she is going to have a moment in part two, because to your point, there were a lot of people there that there was not really any relevancy for them to be there. Like, love Amber, happy she's there. She looks amazing. It's her pregnancy announcement. But other than that, pretty much closed lips the entire time. Chauncey, not even realizing Chauncey is next to her. Like, Chauncey, also what's funny is, don't you feel like he didn't even get any of the hugs and the applause and the congratulations for the pregnancy?
I mean, usually the woman gets the hugs and the applause.
Of course, but it felt like no one was like
Like
acknowledging
acknowledged, and we're having a baby, right? Like he
yes,
was there. It's not like I'm pregnant and the dad's somewhere and you don't know who he is. No, you're right. That was a
exactly.
little.
Honestly, it just dawned on me now because I was thinking about the two of them sitting in the chair together and how every now and then they would just show like a reaction from Amber as they do. Also the editing, I did enjoy just the little glimpses of reactions. We got a lot of Devin like eye rolls and side eyes and
Uh-huh.
a lot of people crying and putting their hands up in the air. Every now and then they would show Amber. So I was thinking about how Chauncey was just sitting there and me remembering or me thinking in that moment, Chauncey hasn't said a damn thing. They haven't asked him a question. It's like he might as well not be there. And now I'm remembering that during the pregnancy announcement, it's not even like he was also kind of in the mix or even acknowledged at all as being a part of making this baby.
Yeah. I yeah, there was a lot of people that, I mean, not totally surprisingly, Kenny didn't really dominate the screen last night
Shocked.
as
Shocked.
shocked.
Casey got some time though.
She got a second to talk about Nani. It's like, again, I like Casey and Nani, but we don't need them to affirm one another every time either of them speaks. I don't know, or something. I don't even think it's their fault. I feel like it's very produced, but it's like, yeah, I whatever. She'll say like, "Oh, I worked really hard," and it's like, you did work really hard, and your mom. It's like, okay, like you guys can. I would like them to have individual personalities still,
Right.
nonetheless. I mean, Nani does kind of, but
Well, I mean, if there's one thing
um,
about Kenny, he just is always going to show up. He's always going to be there. He's great at
I,
showing up. That's a
I don't
great
even
quality to have.
think we saw him. Like, I did you see
I
him?
did see him. I remember seeing him because I remember his little outfit. He had on like a taupe. That's a color, right? Like a taupe
Taupe,
taupe.
taupe.
taupe jacket.
Yeah. Yeah.
Taupe with, I think, like a red shirt. It was giving me a similar fashion as Fessy style, how he wears
Oh, okay.
like turtleneck with a little jacket over it and
Yeah.
matching pants. Yeah, so I saw his fashion. I saw him there. He showed up. He's always showing up. Don't
I
worry.
did not see him, but now I remember seeing someone else that had a Fessy-esque style. So I might not have been paying a lot of attention, but I will say that that is not a style I enjoy. I get that it must be like in style now because Matt James did it a lot on when his season of The Bachelor, like the like mock turtleneck and a jacket. And I was like, wait, is this in style? Why are they doing this? And I
It's
guess it
definitely
is.
Fessy style. Like he's always going to show up in that
Yeah.
when it's not a season about spies. But let's
So
get, yeah, some of the things that they talk about in the reunion. One of my critiques right away, it's funny, I'm saying I really like the reunion, but something that stuck out to me right away was they go right into questions and the drama, which get it, that's what we're here for. But
right,
also, I'm thinking poor Devin and Tori, they just won this thing. Cause I'm also thinking
right.
the drama that Tori's gonna have to relive, whether it's Jordan, whether it's Nerys, anything with some of the girls in the house. I'm thinking, oh, this could be, a stage night where there's a lot of drama that Tori has to relive. But
Right.
she won. So what does she care? But in the beginning, there's none of it like a
Like,
celebration. It's just like a very normal, like,
congratulations.
oh
Right.
yeah, oh, you guys are wearing gold. Okay, next, let's talk about everyone's drama.
I agree. And I'm sure, as we know, as you know, working in production, that there was many minutes, hours, times left on the cutting room floor. So for whatever reason, I guess they decided to just get right into it. In terms of before we get super into it, my fashion critiques are I loved Tori and Devin in their gold because literally that was the only shout out to their winning almost that the whole reunion did. And I love that they were coordinated. No one else really did that. And it was great. And I thought Jordan looked great. And I thought Bananas looked nice. I liked he wore like a nice suit. I thought Bananas looked nice at the thing too. And I mean, everybody else looked gorgeous. All the girls looked very pretty. But yeah, no, I really liked Tori and Devin's gold.
I liked it too. It speaks to their rider diness that they coordinated their
Mhm.
outfits. Devin's, oh, sorry, dropped my phone. Devin's suit jacket was funny. Like he came, I feel like there was a sports broadcaster who's passed away who always used to wear very eccentric sports jackets, and that was what
Uh-huh.
for. I feel so badly that his name is escaping me right now. Anybody in the sports world is probably gonna like slap me in the face for this, but it kind of gave off that vibe where I'm like, did he get that custom made? Where did he find that he matched Tori with it? And I love Tori's champ on her sneakers too.
Yes. Yeah, they looked great. I liked it.
Yeah, and it's always one of those things that if somebody is humble, you might want them to brag a little bit more, but when they're bragging, you're like, sit down, be humble sort of thing. Because
Mhm.
that's how I'm feeling. Like I almost wanted them to be in that moment a little bit more. I wanted to
Right.
get more of the spotlight and for them to be like, we won. No one can tell us nothing. F all of you, we're the champs, but they didn't get to have that moment. But I'm sure if they did, we'd be saying like, they're so cocky and they're bragging and they just need to, be humble and take the win.
Yeah, we didn't see that moment. I would have liked to because it was pretty low key and again, I guess I didn't really miss it until you brought it up, but it's totally true that it wasn't talked about a lot, which is strange. My major takeaways from the night were Tori and Jordan. I really understood both. I guess do you want to just go through each sort of argument as they hash them out?
Yeah, I wonder if we do that or we just do the best ones.
Okay. Because
Yeah,
now I'm
so
like, wait, I thought of so well then let's start with Jack versus
Jack and Jay. Okay, so my
Jack
note
and
actually,
Jay.
per verbatim, let me try to see if I can find it, is oh, not the Jack Jay thing again, because it's just really them
Oh
trying to make them seem like they had such a stronger friendship than they did. I feel like we kind of already hashed that out on the show. It just kind of felt like
yes.
they've known each other for 3 weeks. I get it when you start to buddy up with someone in the house and you start to create that connection and you really do like them, you can feel hurt. But to me, the whole thing just feels very fabricated between at least Jack and Jay. But what's interesting is this part two, the
Yes.
apology and the outside of the house. Yeah. So it sounded like you had a thought on that you want to say.
Well, I wanted to say that the way Jack presented it, I was like, ew, Jay, so thirsty, so gross. And then Jay's like, I'm a photographer. Like,
Yeah.
me offering to bring a camera, like you're making it. Then I was like, wait a second. Okay, you are obviously well aware that you're twisting this situation and it could look super shady and suspect. He's like, and then you said you'd bring a camera. And we're all like, eye roll, gross. But it's like, well, that's not as gross if you take into context that he's a photographer, like, and you're going to a show. It's not that gross. And I feel like Jay is being besmirched a little bit because he's not loud and aggressive. And when I really thought about it at first, I was like, ew, gross. And then I was like, wait a second, it's not that gross at all. And
Yeah,
for a
because I
photographer to put,
remember we heard this on the Challenge After Show podcast. Did we talk about that?
no, because I
Oh,
didn't listen to it. I don't
okay.
think I heard. Yeah.
I couldn't remember if we talked about it, but I was listening one episode when Anissa was there, Davon and Devin, and they had Jack on. And Jack basically said that about Jay. And I thought how gross too, because
Right.
one side of the story, and he's talking about, Jay reached out to me to apologize. We're going to work out. And then he was making it all about content for the followers. He was making it all about like, oh, I'll bring my camera. Like we can show everybody we pieced it up. We could put it out there on social media. And I thought the same thing. I was like,
Right.
oh, weird, but it also didn't feel authentic to Jay. Not that we know him, but
Right. No,
like,
no.
yeah.
He doesn't seem like someone like a teen girl with her phone. Like, I'm sorry. No, Jay doesn't seem like, I follow him and I don't ever see anything. So put it that way. Like, he's not a big social media person. So that is true that it wouldn't ring that true that he'd be like, oh yeah, content. It's like,
Yeah. He's not
really?
selling boxing fights. Like I feel like Jay is very
Exactly.
under the radar. He's not really a social media person. He goes
Right.
on the show and then like does a few posts here and there. But yeah, it felt a little bit off brand for him. So I was glad
Huh.
we got to hear a side of the story. For me, it feels like an example of he said, she said, and like perception. So I'm sure Jack probably feels valid in his perspective, or you think that he knows he's kind of fabricating it.
I think he knows it sounds a certain way, and all you have to say is, oh, he wanted to milk for social media, and it sounds all of a sudden people are like, oh, gross. And that's it, because my mind did that, like, oh, lame, he's not genuine, he doesn't want to make up. But then when Jay, right, at first it is easy to dismiss, and I didn't even give critical thought the way you did, that like it doesn't track with Jay. I just thought, oh, that's icky to think you're gonna, make up with someone and then bring up making content. But it's like, no, I said I'd bring my camera, and like that's what you do. Like, you can get some
Yeah.
content out of it if you want. Like, if I had a friend that was an influencer and I was whatever. But yes, you're right. It's like, did Jay really? And he seems a little more
Yeah.
that even if that was secretly his intent, Jay would be a little like smarter than to be like, let's make content before they ever connect with.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
also
no,
funny though because it's edited and people are screaming over each other and you don't want to hear what you don't want to hear. Like Jack already has his mind set up like, no, dude, you wanted to do this for content, you wanted to do this for Instagram. So no matter how many times Jay is saying, no, I'm a photographer. I brought my
right.
camera because I wanted to photograph you like I do my friends. It just he doesn't want to hear it. So it's
Right.
kind of like a weird, awkward moment when they're yelling over each other and
It was awkward, and the way it was delivered, I think I wish Jay had fighted for himself more, because his excuse, like, no, I was offering to do it for you, didn't sound like it made a lot of sense either, until you think about that one is a social media content creator and one is a photographer. So
yeah.
if you're trying to like make up and be nice to a content creator and you're a photographer, saying I'll bring my camera, you can shoot some stuff, is not as like nefarious as it sounds when you
Yeah.
just think it. Yeah. So that was whatever. Laurel versus Michelle. Just think Michelle's so funny with her like aware drama, like growth and progress. Just her. It's like, oh, Michelle, you need to go on, like, I don't know,
She's
a
letting
different
it be
show.
known the work that she's doing on herself. So I I happen to love it though. I mean, obviously Laurel is an OG and I'm always going to want her on a season because I do just appreciate that she's very forward, blunt, to the point. You need personalities like that, but I said this when it unfolded on the actual season, that I tended to still agree with Michelle. And I kind of understood where Michelle was coming from, even though it might be paranoia. Maybe she doesn't have necessarily valid reasons to have wanted to throw Laurel in. But I'm still like, girl, you had the sense from her that she wasn't working with you. It's a game. It's all a game and it's a competition. If you're not aligned with her, she's not in your alliance and isn't, somebody you've made a deal with, you can throw her in and that can be
Right.
fine. So I'm
Well,
glad that, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. I agree with you. I was just thinking while you were saying it, I'm walking through it, and it's funny because I don't really care for Laurel, but I do like her gameplay. And
Yes,
I
as a
do like
person on a
Michelle,
reality
even though
TV
I think
show.
she's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But I agree. I just came full circle with Michelle on this. I agree with what Michelle ultimately said was, I wish I owned it better. Because
Yes.
her whole like, do you want to talk? It's like, no, you're making up a scenario. I don't want to talk about your made up scenario. And you
Yeah.
are throwing me in. Like, I get Laurel being like, what, do you have a question? Like, no, I don't want to sit and chat with you about your made up beef that we don't have or do have. Or I agree that she probably didn't like her. Michelle sensed it, but then just, I don't feel like you like me. We're not working together and I'm throwing you in. I agree with Michelle, which she came to that same thing. It's just funny, what is the millennial speak or whatever that these people do, like safe space, like thinking, processing,
Yeah.
feeling. It's like, oh,
But
shut up.
listen, I know there's still a taboo around it because listen, I do believe that it's true. Like I do think reflecting on yourself is such a good sign of growth.
Of
And if we
course it
all did
is.
it, we'd be better people if we could be accountable for the way that we talk and think back about what did I do wrong? What should I do better? But it is
Right.
funny when you say it out loud. I know what you mean when you're talking about like, I'm workshopping this part of my personality. But I appreciate it. I think it's true, and I do that for myself, and I
It's
like
how
to
people grow, and
it. Yeah.
absolutely one should grow. And like for example, a good transition to Jordan addressing the throwing in Fessy thing is a less like safe space, new agey, my soul energy speak way of saying. He's like, I regret it now looking back. Not proud, I maybe shouldn't have done it and I made a mistake. And I'm like, it's the same thing. It's just less sort of self-aggrandizing
Yeah.
speak with it. But I do like Michelle. I really do. I really like her on the show. I really want her back. She's a good competitor, which is a good match, a good mix for having that kind of. You need a Laurel and you need a Michelle as overly sensitive,
Yes,
not sensitive at
exactly.
all, to the point of like I think Laurel is I I'd rather have a Michelle than a Laurel, like for
Yeah,
sure.
it goes back to so Laurel starts also yelling at her, like, you're terrified of me. Just say it, which always makes me kind of roll my eyes. It's like, do you think you're this big bad bully? I mean, yeah, people probably are scared of how athletic you are, how tall you are, like how good you are at this game, your experience. And maybe they're scared of you because you can come off
Because
really
you're scary.
blunt. Yeah, you can
I'm
be,
scared of
but
Laurel.
it
She's
feels
fucking
like,
scary.
okay, like big flex. All right. You're scared of me. Just say you're terrified of me. Just say it. It felt very like middle school
No,
bully.
her and Jack, they're both middle school bullies. Like they
Yeah.
just remind me of who is it? Like some movie where like the girl and her best friend are just like, oh, like in Mean Girls, the other two girls, the not part of the Mean Girls that are friends with Lindsay
Damien,
Lohan. Yeah,
Damien
the guy
and
and the girl that
Janice.
come
Yeah.
up with the plan to ruin
Yes.
the life of like that's what they remind me of. It's just like leaning back to back, eye rolling, looking at everyone. And
So
it's
who's
like
Regina George?
in this scenario, it's Michelle.
Oh, no, but
I mean, not all the time, but in this, I don't
I
know.
mean
There is
in
no
terms of
Regina George.
vengeance, yes.
Right. In terms of right
Got it,
now who
got
they're attacking, it's Regina George, but
it. Okay.
it's Michelle. But in general, I don't think there is one in the we'll have to think about that.
Got it. Yes.
Um
But also on the subject of kind of high school caliber, immature caliber fights, Nerissa and Raven, we need to talk about
okay.
because this just to me is like, I know this is the world that they're in and this is reality TV. We love to watch it. And maybe we wish we could talk to people that bluntly in the workplace, but I always just think about work settings with when watching these reunions and watching these fights unfold. Like imagine having the type of like fight Nerissa and Raven did on TV and then like going into their office the next day, like, hi boss, or like writing an email,
Right.
hello, via
Jenna, you can't get it like I get it. You just can't
right.
get it like I get it. Like we were rubbing things. Like, yeah, it's like, oh
Yeah.
my God. And it is funny, even the rookies' temperament and still trying to make a name for themselves and be big and loud, verse, except for Laurel. the sort of more established people who are like, I'm not going to sit and scream and do like a
Yeah.
put on a show. But I felt like that. Like I really liked Nerese so much. That made me. I thought Raven was genuinely sad. Obviously, she was holding back tears. She clearly cares about Johnny, and Nerese was just coming at her way too hard.
Yeah.
I didn't think like that was warranted. And obviously, there is real life things behind this that might have fueled that I don't know about. But I was not into Nerese's like
Well,
take
yeah,
down of her.
well, it was interesting too because I don't think Nerese wasn't really involved at first. Raven was deflecting her anger appropriately to Johnny. It seemed like
Absolutely.
everything was all about Johnny. It wasn't really, nothing was about Nerese. So I think Nerese probably just got defensive because she knew she was adjacent to that situation and wanted to defend herself. So I get wanting to defend herself. I mean, I wonder what other things were said behind closed doors. Maybe that's why she stepped in. But yeah, it felt interesting. It felt like kind of out of place for her to jump in at that moment.
It it felt like kicking someone they were down. Like I didn't feel
Yeah.
like she needed to be kicked. It was like she's only responding to you coming at her, which you jumped in and came at her. And she's clearly hurt by this person. Where I mean, I'm of two minds. One is you're sitting there listening to the guy you're dating being sort of talked shit about to some extent. So you want to defend them. But I think there's a way to do it without being. I mean, again, this goes back to like the workplace. Like it's all very juvenile, very high school,
So
very,
reality TV. My notes are like,
very
ha ha
reality
ha 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 ha.
TV.
This fight is so reality
Right.
TV.
So it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know how much of it is for the cameras, dare
Yeah.
I say, but it's like, I felt like Raven was genuinely vulnerable in that moment and jumping on her.
Yeah.
All Johnny could have said is like, I didn't mean to hurt you. You know what I
And I
mean?
just
Like,
think
I'm
of it from
sorry.
like such an adult perspective now. Like, how ridiculous
Right.
would it be for us to yell at each other that way and then send it like best regards,
Right.
sincerely, like via last message.
And just that as you grow up, there are more effective ways to that is part of growing up and going back to the making fun of Michelle for self growth. Like, yes, hopefully those women will grow, and in 10 years they won't act like that if they were to be in a similar situation. Because we can all relate to like the situations as you grow up. Those situations don't stop happening, feelings being hurt and
Mhm.
things happening, but
Yeah.
people communicate a little more effectively and just puffing out your chest and ego pumping and banging your chest and stuff become less important, and like communicating and maybe hearing someone becomes a little more important. So
Yeah,
again,
but
it's reality TV. If everyone was rational and normal, it wouldn't be fun at all. But I don't even really enjoy watching those things though. They just kind of make me cringe at this point. It's like
yeah, it's a little bit cringy.
it's a little cringy. It's like, okay, I don't know. That one seemed a little because I really like Nerese again. I feel like she seemed mean, like going after a girl who's kind of crying about the way a guy led her on and what she thought. And obviously, she knows it's over. She's not like delusional either. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
I feel like she made her look really stupid. And it's like, no, I know he doesn't. No, we're not ride or dies. No, I don't think he cares about me. But yes, going into it when we're laying in bed together, doing whatever we're doing, that gives me the potential going in as a team that something could happen. So I don't think
It's
I'm
also funny
crazy to
because we
think that.
get we get an inside look of Johnny and Raven's ride or die-ness and the fact that, they're laying in bed together, watching the challenge, preparing for the challenge as things are rubbing up on each other. Like, who says that in that sort of
Well,
way?
him, and that's where I'm like, listen, both of you girls, leave this guy. And I
Yeah.
showed you my boobs. Again, both of them started their arguments for defense. Like, but I showed you my boobs because you asked to see them. I was like, ladies,
Again, middle
ladies,
school,
ladies,
middle school. Oh my
ladies,
goodness.
yes,
And
girls.
maybe
And also,
don't
don't show
air it
your boobs
out.
then.
Yeah, you don't need to air it out. It just feels, oh, yeah,
They're
she
like, we were intimate. Again, it's like subtlety. There's something for subtlety. You don't need to say, I showed you my tits. Like,
I think she wanted to show Johnny was in the wrong, which I do for the most part think he was kind of dogging her, but
I'm sure in his mind it was fun and flirty. I'm sure in her mind, I don't show my friends my boobs and rub their body parts. Like
right,
you can't say we're platonic. This is not
right.
platonic behavior. And at the same time, he's also in his mind, it's like, yeah, it was it was a little
Yeah.
fun and games. We weren't. I get both of their points. They're both valid, but again, they all need non-reality TV communication school.
I
So,
mean, it's so
but
funny to have the rebuttal to this wasn't that serious. And your rebuttal is, I was rubbing your back. That being like a yes, obviously we were committed. Obviously we were committed and in love. I was
and
rubbing your
other
back.
things. He was alluding to other body parts being
Yes,
rubbed.
but
You were
her
just
rebuttal was, I
saying,
rubbed your back.
right?
Well,
If you're
much.
rubbing up on someone under covers in bed watching TV, I don't do that with most of my friends.
Yeah.
Again,
They're,
when I was 20 and you were maybe going to hook up with your friends, maybe you would, but like they're not, you're crossing a line of,
yeah.
you're a little more than, you're something, a little more than friends. I think that they're both, I think she took it the way she wanted to take it. He took it the way he took it, and that neither of them are telling lies, or it's just
I think
that
the biggest thing is she obviously wanted more. She said that on the
he
show.
did, and
That's
she was
why her
hurt.
heart is broken. Yeah, that's why she's so sad because she really wanted more out of it. And he was so quick to bounce to the next and show that he didn't care about her the way she did. So for that reason, that's actually really sad. And that sucks. We've all been
And
there.
you're reminding me of everything because that's exactly why I thought Nerys was extra mean. She's like, it's not the physical that he was hooking up with you. With that said, he wasn't there for me. This is when she was tearing up. She's like, he was my ride or die, and he didn't give a shit about me.
It's
And it
all of
makes
it.
me feel alone. And she was like tearing up, and Nerys is like, make new friends. And I was like,
That
all right,
That's
come on.
really, yeah, that's really what I was aiming towards when I was saying these like middle school, high school fights, like make new
I
friends,
forgot. Yeah,
like
it's like
yelling
that's a
at someone in the
little vicious
hallway,
too.
like no one likes you. It's just like, oh man,
Right.
can't do
Again, I
that
guess I'm just
anymore.
old and soft now, but I'm sympathizing with the girl. It's like, yes, she was hurt by him. Whether she acting like that doesn't make sense, that you're upset that you're ride or die, forget if he's not going to date you and he's dating someone else, but the fact that they're not there for you at all and you feel completely alone and you
Yeah.
don't know these people, you are a rookie.
Well,
It's
speaking of
hard to
flimsy,
win too. It's like you're not going to win. I'd be pissed too. It's like, well, then
why'd we
John,
show
I
up?
think, yeah, it's like, why drag me here as your ride or die if you're not even going to work with
You're not
me?
gonna
And then when
talk to
I feel
me.
shitty, you're going to make me feel shittier.
Yeah.
Apparently,
And
he's
then-
lacking a sensitivity chip because
yeah.
he didn't
And
say a
so
word. And yeah. And again, and that's when she jumped in. And it's like, don't jump in and defend this. That's where I got kind of mad at Nerys. It's like, no, you should understand that that's not that cool.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, Nerys on all of her shows, she definitely doesn't hold back from a confrontation. So she's right there in it. But speaking of flimsy ride or die, so we see a little bit of the context of Raven and Johnny, but we also see it for Fessy and Mariah, because our favorite overlying question the entire time of our after show is, how are these two actually ride or die? They're not really ride or die. Why are they here? They went on a few dates. We do kind of basically get that same information that he slid into her DM. She didn't answer until he was verified, which is incredible. And makes the whole crowd laugh. She says it's because she had a boyfriend, so she was being loyal and true. But she also drops the ball and on him and says, "Well, you're only friends with me when it's convenient for you," and everybody going with the oh god.
Well, she's right. And again, as we suspected, hold on to your seat. They're not ride or dies, right? He slid into her DMs. They're social media friends. I don't even think, and then maybe they hung out a few times.
Yeah. But
I think he was
yeah.
trying to get with her and she wasn't that into it. It seemed like she was like, you were my friend, you were hanging out with me, you were around and stuff. And then I thought she came out looking like a rose. She pivoted to you
Mhm.
suck. Forget that I just didn't talk to you until you were verified. And me and Bonanza are still talking, so everyone suck it. I thought she came out great.
I also think it was funny that there was some back and forth on who was using who for each other's games, whether it was
Right.
Mariah using bananas or bananas using Mariah. It sounds like a little bit of both, which is smart. It is a game, but they still, I feel like, we're into each other and are still talking now. So
Yeah. No, it came out fine. I feel like the bananas Veronica sniping was very like neither of them showed their claws, they just threatened to. And it's like,
yeah,
wait, what are you saying? What are you guys saying? Like, what did, because he alluded to Veronica being bad in relationships, which I'm like, what's that all about? And she was alluding to having been with him after a season and seeing how he treated a girlfriend. So it's like, well, tell us, people. This I want to know. Don't be so mature, right? It's like, get
Yeah,
trashy.
I
So I
completely
kind of
agree with
wanted to
you.
know.
They left a little bit of the breadcrumbs, and I was like, wait a second, how are we just gonna gloss over that? Like, it seemed like we were really starting to get on to something here when for Johnny said, well, Veronica has a clouded view of me, you know, she or her hatred for me clouds her judgment. She doesn't really know with my relationships or something. And then Veronica says, well, I've been on a trip with you when you were in a relationship, and I have seen some sort of things. How are we just gonna pivot from that? I
Right.
don't think Maria was probably like, I'm not even gonna touch that because it has nothing to do with this season. But we're speaking of being ready for confrontation. That's definitely Veronica. She's not one to ever shy away from confrontation. And I do feel like with her being such a vet and her always having that personality, the thing is with Veronica, I feel like you got to come correct. You know, like she will say, she's like, okay, so you're saying that I don't know about your relationships and, you know, my judgment's being clouded when it comes to you. Well, I do know something, sir. So how far do you want to tread on this?
Absolutely. 1,000,000%. I don't think, I think exactly what you said. Veronica is not going to shy away if you poke her. She's not going to, I feel like she really didn't want to go there and like do whatever, say that. And usually I hate when people are like, don't make me say what I could say about you, just because I also think it's mean.
Yeah,
And it's like,
yeah.
I could bring up that thing. It's like, well, then you really just did. So even if you're not
Yeah.
saying it right, it's like, but I feel like she really wasn't going to. But when he was like, well, I could say some shit about you, just his initial defense, and then he backed off and was like, because she's like, what? Like, what are you going to say about me? If you really want to go somewhere, go ahead, but then you're going to get it. Like, I don't think she was falsely flexing, like, I'll go there if you make me. And I think he realized that and like pulled his claws back because he did. He was like, just forget about it. You don't know about my relationships, and like got real quiet. And that's fine. She doesn't necessarily need to comment on that. But also, I think he took it out of context where Veronica was probably saying, usually you come into the show, you date all the rookies, and then you fuck them over, you fuck their game over, or you ruin their lives, or you do something unfun for them that winds up
Yeah.
screwing them up. And I think Mariah, though, at that point was like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I don't need, like, I'm not Johnny's victim, basically. Like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm a big girl. I got this. And I think she does. I think she does, but I think that's what Veronica was alluding to, that like every season you fuck with a rookie girl and it doesn't usually
It
end
would be
that well.
interesting for us to know for sure, to actually have the rest of the words. But you're right. I mean, if you are with someone and you make a promise, you're not going to air that out, or you don't want to dangle something above everybody. That's true. That's not necessarily the
Yeah, no, I usually don't like that, but I did.
yeah. But when it comes to this, we want to spice up this reunion a little bit and hear a little bit
Yeah,
of drama. I mean, this is reality TV, isn't it? So you might as well let us hear it.
exactly. And again, subtle art of leave them wanting more. Like
Yeah.
imagine if the conclusion was, I showed you my boobs. It's like, oh, that's what happened.
You're like,
That's what you did.
okay, let me go
Okay.
watch the PG movies.
Yeah,
Them to be reality
exactly.
show. We get to hear a little bit more about Olivia's face injury. She broke it in 5 places. That's insane. And the whole thing about her being that close to death.
Well, she could have died, right? The real bomb. It's like, yeah, if it had gone into my eye, and someone posted on social media prior to the reunion a picture of when Fessy and Jordan did it, and they had goggles on when they did the shot. Yeah, they're like, where were her goggles? Like they when
Wasn't
they did
that
that.
one that was not as heavy as strong as balls, right? Wasn't that like
No,
water?
I think it was bigger balls because it was
Oh, it
going
was.
up
Okay.
further. I don't really remember, to be completely honest. I'm in my mind's eye, it was a bigger thing, but I could be making that up because I feel like they were launching their whole bodies back to.
I'm kind of shocked that MTV aired that part of the story because it kind of shows that they put them in a situation where had it been just a little bit different, she could have actually died. If that's what doctors said. Like, one, that's so jarring to hear, and two, the fact that they put it out there is kind of wow. I can't believe they would allow people to maybe know that insider knowledge about what could
Yeah,
have been a massive liability. I mean, I can't imagine.
especially when goggles would have saved her life. Like I feel like that's such a dumb, like, why didn't she have goggles on? I will
Yeah.
never know. We'll have to, these are the
Um,
things, these are the
Horatio was
reasons
the
I go
best.
to Twitter. Yeah. Horacio's the best.
The
Didn't like,
best.
again, this is the same way I feel about the turtlenecks and jackets.
He's
The
doing
like
it
Ash,
too. He's doing
why
it too.
Yeah, why, well, he did that, but also the ash tips.
I
That's a
love the
thing
blonde
too.
hair. I
Oh, I
do.
hated it. Didn't like it.
Okay. I like that he's experimenting with his style, but you're so right. He did the turtleneck suit jacket combo.
He's such a good looking guy. It's hard
Yeah,
for him not to look great. And I was like,
true.
no, Horacio,
Not for
I'm
you.
not feeling your
And
fashion
he's just,
choices.
oh, I just love him. He's so genuine and sweet. If something comes out that he's not as sweet as he appears, I'll be very upset.
I think knock on wood, he really is. And I love her too. It's funny. I love Olivia
Love Olivia.
more than I even love her on, like, on this show and on that show. Like, I think she has a really neat and nice personality that
Yeah.
I'd like to see more of.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's authentic and I think she tries to see the best in the situation and think
Mhm.
critically and kind of assess everything. And she minds her business, it seems like.
She doesn't just yell to yell about stupid shit.
Doesn't
Yeah.
sell. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, good. Go Team Olivia. Yep.
Go Team Olivia. What else happened? So we only have 2.5 minutes on the Zoom. Should we start a new one?
I don't have much more
We
to
gotta talk
say.
about
Sorry.
Nani.
Yeah. Nani, again, I mean, it's the same things it's brutally sad. It was very emotional
Heartbreaking.
and
Oh my God.
sincere. I felt like this and hearing the story about her mom and Maria sort of emoting with her was a lot more powerful than the produced, like, I'm doing this for my mom, you're doing this for your mom, from like Bananas. From This was a really sort of raw emotions, and it was touching.
I
It's very
love
sad.
that. Yes, I love that there was time devoted to this because I feel like there was a good chunk of time that went into talking about Nani and her getting back on the season, but I liked every minute of it because it was a testament to her strength and I think it was really nice to hear her talk about how hard it is to go through something like that, but just talking about her mother's backstory
Well,
and
that's what yeah, it
how
was
her
because
mom, really placed those values in her to get up the next day, even if you are depressed. She's like, what am I going to do? Sit in bed and cry day after day? Or am I going to go fight? Am I going to go get up and try again like my mom would want me to? And just to have that reminder and fight off the depressive feelings, I feel like it was so nice to hear from Nani. And
agreed,
yeah,
agreed. And I didn't, yes, getting the insight into who her mom was really valuable in empathizing. Of course, it's sad to hear, and it's sad to watch someone suffering through the loss of their mother, but that did really make me connect to that feeling. Not that you want to connect to that so
right.
hard, but yes, like the way I was like, oh my God, like thinking about it, it humanized it a lot, as opposed to just hearing like someone lost their parent. It's sad, it's awful, it's hard to happen. This was very humanizing, and it meant something.
And I was kind of crying watching it too because it felt like her pain was so strong that everybody could feel it. They love her and they feel for her and they can see what she's going through, that it felt like everybody on that stage is pain. Like that's how much they feel for her and could see how bad she wanted this to be able to make her mom proud and see how much of a fighter she is. Tori's a mess, wiping all her tears, and it's so nice to see everybody sharing that emotion with her and Maria talking about it too. Like,
Yeah.
so I was just really glad that they gave so much time to it because we heard about it a lot this season, but I feel like this gave it a new perspective and a new light where we could really feel that pain with Nani and see how much it meant to her to be there on the season.
Yeah. And I also liked, for once, usually I'm like, Nani and Casey, but it was like, I'm so sorry. I felt like I took your attention away from the game. It was nice to
Right.
get that insight into the realness of the relationships too, where she's like, don't be, you would do it for me too. It's like, it was very sweet. And
Yes.
I, it's funny that Dan's like, she might just not be a good reality TV personality. And I was like, oh, she was good on Big Brother, but because there were so many dramatic people. I think with this, that is it. She's down to earth. Casey, now I'm talking about, and normal, and they don't show their drama on air or anything. So, but it was nice to at least see that the kindness and sweetness in a way that wasn't, I feel like their moments this season, especially, were produced. They had to try and get them to convey their private moments in a forum that they were comfortable with, like sitting next to each other and talking, like, your mom's watching down on, like, it seemed very
Right,
still.
right.
Like they were like, we're not getting anything in public from these two. We need to
Right.
like sit them on a bench and have them discuss their feelings. So this felt so much more raw and real. So
Yeah.
that was nice too. It was very humanizing for what Nani went through, which
Yeah,
the
that's been our
show.
critique of like the last few seasons, is just feeling like it's no longer a show that's just actually following people, their movement throughout the day. It's not just like camera guys or hidden cameras. They used to have hidden cameras that now I feel like we don't see that camera angle anymore. It doesn't feel like craziness in a house that's being surveilled 24/7. It feels like,
Right.
okay, everybody is living in the house, but we are going to set up the situations in which people are speaking. We are going to ask someone, hey, you come in the room and talk to that person. Would you? Instead of like, oh shit, that person's just authentically going to talk to that person. Let's go grab it, grab it, grab it. Quick, camera on, you know?
Mhm.
So yeah, that season had that feel.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. But that was good, the Nani. So yeah, no, I'm just thinking it's totally, it's a competition show where they compete, talk about competing, talk about their discussions around competing.
yeah,
And then later we get to hear some gossip.
a little trying to put the pieces together. But something that
Mhm.
I found interesting, I want to talk to you about is the opposing sides of should you or shouldn't you help somebody in the elimination. And so we
Oh,
have bets like Jordan and even Darrell. Poor Darrell, speak of someone who never had a word in this entire reunion. Like why, he was there though. And he was able to have his voice heard a little bit when he said, but this is how it's always been. People have always been helping each other in eliminations, which that is true. There's definitely truth to that, where people have supported people in elimination, try to help them win. But I do kind of feel for Jay and Michelle when they talk about like, but we had no shot in this. Like you guys interfered so much that we had no shot. So it's a weird question of like, hate the game or hate the players. I mean, that is kind of the game. So what do you do?
also, correct me if I'm wrong, but when because in my mind, this is where I was thinking in Wheel of Fortune, like you can't yell out like, "What?
Right.
Flowers on the pedal, put some flower." Like you can't do that. And I feel like during Nani and Mariah's elimination, it was like no one saying, like they were told not to say anything. So I feel like if you're gonna really influence, you can speculate and yell and cheer and say, "Try going to the left" or like whatever, but you can't give the answers. And that's essentially almost preventing someone from hearing someone when they need to talk is the flip side of giving the answer. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're
Yeah.
taking the answers away. You're making it so they can't give each other
Huge
the
interference. But
yeah. So
it gets a little bit tricky to talk about or come to a conclusion on it, because it also feels like blaming the refs for losing a game that sometimes feels like a cop out, like playing sports or watching sports. Sometimes if you're like, well, it's because the ref made that call or the ref missed that call, that's
yeah.
what cost us the game. It's like, doesn't it always kind of feel a little bit weak to blame it on the ref? It's like, all right, well, you should have also scored 3 more goals than you did, or you should have actually made that field goal, then you wouldn't have to rely on the ref. So I have that feeling like you don't want to blame the refs for everything. But at the same time, it's hard not to conclude, well, if they weren't screaming over us, we could have won this. I don't know. It's just that hard back and forth of what side do you pick? It's yeah.
I agree with you. I see both sides. I think that
Yeah.
it's fine to scream and cheer and help, because that help, again, you're not giving away the answer. You're helping, you're observing and trying to, unless you're Devin Coke, saying to the left, like 90 degrees north, south, then you're kind of giving an answer. But with that, to really impede their ability to do it, I
Yeah.
do get it. So I don't know. And
And we
I'm
have
curious
seen people
now.
do that. I mean, even remember one of the recent ones that was controversial of Tori helping both Emmanuel and Devin and trying to give Emmanuel the math answers that Devin had already gotten, like she was literally like,
Yeah.
oh, that way, that way. Like people do help. They do help others win, and it
Right.
always annoys the other competitor. And
Yeah.
that's
I don't know where I stand on that one.
I know it's a tough one. I think
It is a tough one.
honestly, I don't want this to be cop out sitting on the fence, but I do truly feel like it's a case by case basis. I really feel like the amounts of help that you're getting or how much it interferes is like case by case. If it's super blatant, that's not really fair.
I agree. If
Yeah.
you're not allowed to help during the word find, then you have to keep your comments to a minute. You can't just yell so people can't hear each other, just to literally drown out their communication.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing. So that's where I'd say, like, you're allowed to cheer, but you can't just consistently make noise so that they can't do the task.
But that's when the tease for entering Turbo comes in. And I
Okay.
just
Yes.
love it because I do feel like they make it seem as though he's going to come out in person. But if you could hear his voice, he's not coming out in person. I think it's over Zoom, which is just not the same tension as being face to face
Yeah.
with somebody. It's not the same environment. So I love that Devin's like, who cares? Bring him out, whatever. And I
Right.
really would bring him out, but I think it's just going to be a Zoom call. What do you think?
Oh yeah, and I think Devin, when he did for a second think that he might really be coming out, he was like, "We're not fucking," like tried to make it goofy, like we were funning with each other. Where it seemed like he was pretty serious before he thought Turbo might actually show up.
Devin knows that Turbo will kick his ass because
Yeah,
Turbo will because he's just has that attitude. He's not scared. I
yeah,
hope it's good. I hope it's good what he has to say.
yeah. Me too.
And exciting. I hope it's not one of those like, oh, they teased a cliffhanger and then it's a complete dud. I do think it'll be different the fact that he's not there on stage, but I hope he can say something. What is such a weird character arc with Turbo it's been. It's really disappointing how much we all liked him at first and appreciated like the
Really
different
disappointing. And
so
I have to
disappointing.
feel like he was leaning into the villain role on that last one, but I don't love it. I mean, I
Right.
still want nice Turbo who loves Nani back, good
I
partner to
agree.
Nani, Turbo.
Yeah, it does feel like he's pushing the villain role a little bit, but
Yeah.
the fact that he's doing it so much also has to feel like there is a trueness to that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Well, on to the next one.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's only part two, not part two of two, I mean, not part two of
Right.
seven, which we might prepare for.
2 and 2. And then I think pretty soon after that, we'll roll right into Champions of the World or whatever.
Oh my God, Pam, I have to tell you something. So, anybody who watches a show and you especially know how much I loathe spoilers. Like, I can't watch a show if there's spoilers. I hate knowing results and everything. To go as so far as to not even look at the cast list of Challenge All Stars 3. Didn't even look at the cast list. For some reason, I was mindlessly scrolling through a Challenge T page, just like little like half brain dead at night.
Right.
If there was a spoiler caution on the
Don't
first
tell me.
one.
Okay. Yeah. Don't
I'm
tell
not
me.
gonna say it, but I ran through. I saw the winner.
Don't. Oh, that's so horrible. I'm so sorry because that
What?
happened to me with The Bachelor. Like I won't watch previews for next week just because they
Right.
manipulate you so much, even if it's not going to really spoil. It's like, this is the worst day of my life. And it could be like they stubbed their toe, but you feel like they got
Yes.
sent home. You
Yes.
never know, but they
Want to
do
have
that. And like,
reasonable expectations.
it happened to me once and it's terrible. Like, I'm so sorry. Uh,
All I can do is I'm gaslighting myself into thinking like, what do they know? It's not
it
real.
might not really be real.
Might not be real, but
It might not be real. It might not be real. Just
it's
think that.
probably real. That's
Well,
probably
you
real.
know what? I'm sorry that that happened to you. It's
Devastation.
these are the things we have to go through in this social media entrenched world. It's happened to me before with the challenge once, like not before it even started, but when there were like 4 or 5 episodes left, and I did the same thing to myself. I was like, I'm gonna pretend I don't know this and that it might not be true.
Yes.
And then it happened to me similar with Bachelor. It wasn't before it ever started, but like it was towards the dwindling end. And it was like after John picked Sarah, and I was like, what? How can
Right.
you do that in the middle of the season? I'm like, it was like People Magazine. Something it was like I wanted to find out what someone's job was. That's what it was. I was like, what does that person do? And it was like on season 29, after Steve picked Sarah, I was like, what the fuck? Yeah,
Yeah.
because challenge tea at
Oh, it's
least is, I'm like,
ruthless.
they
It's
do give
so
spoiler
ruthless.
alerts because I'm
And
like,
of course, it's like you forget important stuff all the time. But as soon as you want to forget something, you never will. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, I'll forget that. I'll forget. No, I know what that said.
Mhm.
Ugh, and I know that I'm not going to forget it because I'm trying so hard to wish that I could, and it won't work out that way. So anyway,
Yeah.
that sucks.
Oh man,
Don't-
yeah. Well, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry
It's
that that
okay.
happened to you.
It's okay. There are
Thoughts
worse
and
things.
prayers. Yeah. But it does
Great.
suck.
Congratulations, Dan. We miss you.
Congratulations, Dan.
Hope you're having a
Hashtag
fabulous
congratulations, Dan.
honeymoon.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Write in your comments what you thought about this reunion, what the most compelling argument was for you, most memorable moments.
Yeah. And I want to know, did you guys feel like Nerys came off mean? Or is that just me?
Right.
I don't know. I usually I like
Yeah.
her and I'm like, am I being overly sensitive right now for some reason? I don't know.
Yeah. Let us know.
Okay, let us know.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Yay.
I will find the off recording eventually. There it is. Goodbye.